We'll be starting in just a minute. Come on in and share it out if you're catching it on the replay. Share it to your friends, your followers. We'll be starting in just a minute. As soon as I share it out. Come on in and share it out if you're catching it on the replay. Now we know the sound is working. Hi everybody, Coach Dave here. We are live. Hi Terry, welcome. Come on in everybody. Share it out to your friends. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. Tonight we are talking about opening up a bag of stuff. We're going to let the cat out of the bag. And today's broadcast, let me double check here and make sure that I have it right. On Periscope, exactly, your why, walking in your deepest desires. That's what we're going to talk about. And your why is important. You know why it's important? Because if you don't have one, you won't go anywhere. I'm Coach Dave, and we're going to talk about your why and walking in your deepest desires and how to do that right after this. I don't know when and where I would use that. In any other case, it's at the top of my Dave Brown Coach page on Facebook. But I just want to talk about our why. I want to talk about why it's important. I want to talk about how to get to it, how to understand it, and where you can actually begin to go with it, okay? And it's part of what I call the Life Transform System. And I don't know, sometimes God puts things on my heart a certain way, and I just can't steer any other way. And He's put on my heart to share the whole Life Transform System, every detail, every small little nook and cranny. And if that helps somebody, that's great. So if you know somebody who needs a why, you know somebody who doesn't quite have a direction on where they're going, you need to share this broadcast out to somewhere where they're going to be and they can pick up on it. Because our goal is to help as many people as we can, help as many people get better. So here we go. We're hi Jason, welcome. And if you can figure out how to share this out, this is going to be important for a lot of people. So let me just tell you about the book that I recently finished, and I put it up on my site. You can go and get it for free. This is a book called Let's Get Transformed. It's called Beginning the Journey Toward Legacy. That's the subtitle. And I wrote this book so that you could just read it and begin. Yeah, I have a little bit of an echo on here. And let me see if I can cut that back just a little bit. But I wrote this book so that we could have a way to begin. And let me know if the echo cuts out, okay? Because I'm going to switch a couple things here. Hopefully that's a little bit better. We're going to define the why, but tonight I want you to know there's this book I wrote that you can go and get for free, and you can check it out and go to my website, which is coachdave.link, and you can download a free copy of this book and read it. It's not a book that tells you about the system, because I'm going to tell you about that myself, but it is a book that will tell you whether or not it'll give you some things to reflect on, whether or not you're actually going along with the crowd or whether or not you have an idea of where you want to go. So let me tell you about how I got to the why. My why was hard to get to, and it was hard for me to understand. It was hard to be able to figure out from where I was to where my why is. How am I going to get there? Better? All right, thanks. Appreciate that. Thanks, Dean. It was harder for me to figure out how I was going to get there and what it was even all about. It took me years to discover the fact that I didn't even know what my why was. So with my why in place, now I have a motivation. Now I know how to when you set your goals, you have to start at the end, and you have to say, where do I want to be at the end, and then work backwards to your goals. You have to reverse engineer your goals based on what is your why. If you can't find your why, the how and the what are going to be useless. You might be able to do a little bit of it, but you won't be able to figure out what the missing piece is if you don't have your why. And that's exactly what Microsoft does. It's exactly what Martin Luther King did. Martin Luther King didn't come on and say, I have a plan. He said, no. He said, I have a dream. I have a why. Here's my dream. Here's my vision. Here's my why. Here's my clarity. I have a vision. I have a goal. I have a dream. I have a passion. And if none of those things are in your plan is going to fall flat. You can't put enough effort into a plan that doesn't have a why, a dream, a goal, a vision. You can't put enough effort into a plan that has none of those things. So I'm going to talk about the why tonight. When I picked up an ebook that talked about the why, and it was a free ebook. It was available on a website, and I thought, yeah, I'll read it, but I probably won't get anything from it. I tell you what, it turned my whole life around as far as my why goes. And here's what the guy said on the first page of chapter 1. He said, let's start where you need to start in order to understand your life. And where we're going to start is, we're going to imagine, I want you to imagine that you're in a box. And that box is just being buried 6 feet under. That's right. You're gone. You're dead. You're gone from this life. I want you to imagine that. And as you imagine that, I want you to imagine in your vision, in your mind about this thing that we're talking about. I want you to imagine that you're able to get up out of that box, come above ground, and you find yourself at your own memorial service. There's a gathering of people. They're talking about who you were to them and how they're going to miss you and why they're going to miss you. And as you walk around, there are groups of people. They're in different categories. There's some that are people who just knew you a little bit. There are some people who worked with you. Some of your coworkers, some of the people that worked under you, some of the people that worked higher than you and supervised you. Your family is there, just your general family, as well as brothers and sisters, maybe aunts, uncles, maybe your mom and dad, some if they're still around. Hi, Terry. And so these different groups of people are there, and this is where it starts to formulate. These different groups, thank you for inviting, are there, and they are talking about you in the fond terms that you want to be talked about. They're not cursing your name, okay? This is a vision that you're imagining the best possible scenario in your head. We don't want to put a bunch of negatives in this because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about ideal. What are your ideal goals? What's your ideal why? What's the ideal thing? If you could say, I want to lay it out perfect, okay? So there's these groups of people, and they're talking about you, and they're saying the things about you that you want to have said about you, ideally, after you pass away. And so you've got the coworkers, you've got the supervisors, and the people under you, and the people that just knew you, and maybe people you went to church with. You've got your family there. You've got, in my case, my wife and my kids are there, and because they are in a different category, I mentioned them separately, but the wife is in one category, the kids are in another category because they're in a different part of my life. And so all these people, and then you can even imagine, if you're a believer like I am, you imagine that God himself is there and what he would be saying about you. Okay, now here's where it gets good. You get a notepad, get a pen and paper, and you write down all of these different groups and categories of people. Okay, you follow me? Write down all these different categories of people. Leave some space, because what you're going to write is important. So on a notebook-sized paper, you might want to write the first one I would write was God, and you can categorize them by priority too. So the first one you want to write is God, and then the next one that I would be writing would be my wife. I would hold my wife just that much higher than my kids, because the relationship is different and more intimate. Then on the next page, you turn the page, you write my kids. The next page, you write my siblings and or aunt, uncle, mom, dad, whoever. And then you begin to write the other groups as they are important to you. You write my coworkers, or my boss, or the people I supervise, or my friends, or the people in my church. So you write all those different things down, and you leave room, only write maybe 2 of them per page, okay? And I'm telling you exactly how to do this, because this will help you crystallize it. If it works for you the same way it did for me, it helped me crystallize it. So I'm kind of assuming that I'm not way out there, okay? So this helped me crystallize it. I took my list, and then the next direction was to write down the things that that this group of people were saying. So I imagined, what is God saying about me? God is saying, oh, I remember Dave. He was a good friend of mine. He knew me really well. He might be saying things in my ideal storyline. He knew me really well. He followed me, and he shared the good things that I did in his life with everyone he knew. Okay, so that's one block that you have accomplished. Then you go to your spouse, and you say your spouse was like, he was I don't know, he was the love of my life. He was special to me and did everything he could for me, and I couldn't bear to spend time away from him because I would constantly think about him. Whatever your ideal is for that situation. Then your kids. I remember Dad spent a lot of time with me when I was going through some troubles in school. I remember Dad took me fishing by myself without my sister and my mom honing in on our father-son time. That kind of thing. So go down through your list. The people at church, the people that you know socially, the people in your social groups, the people at bingo, whoever is important to you. Go down your list and through those things. Now this is where it gets real good, is that now you have an idea what your ideal is that you could possibly live up to. When you have that ideal, that's when you narrow it down. You decide then for each of those groups, each of those categories of people, you decide, you go through and you say, okay, what do I want to be the case? What do I want to be true at the time I leave this earth? What do I want to be true about those relationships to those groups of people, those categories of people? And you come up with positive statements in your mind about what you want to be true in those categories with those people. Okay, so for instance, if you're talking about church, you say the positive thing I want to be performing in my life about church is I want to be dedicated to my church. I want to be paying my tithes and paying my offerings and giving more than I'm required to. That's the ideal. Right now, money may be tight. It may be you can't give as much as you want to. You can't even give as much as 10% or even 5%. You just have to go and give them $10 or $15 when the plate comes by, or maybe sometimes you can't afford anything. I've been in those places, and it's not fun. I was at a point when I was going to church in South Dakota. I was at a point where I was looking for work. I'd been out of work for a while, and I remember that the only thing I could do when the offering plate came by, The only thing I could do was I had a $20 bill that I was saving for some groceries, and I did not know how I was going to buy groceries, pay the overdue electric bill, and be able to pay my rent when it came due. I had no idea how any of that was going to even be possible, and I took that $20 bill, and as the pastor was praying over the offering, I was praying my own prayer. And my own prayer was God, I'm going to give you this last piece of paper I have that's worth anything that I can even buy groceries or pay my electric bill with, and I'm going to drop it in the plate. And as it goes by, God, as the plate goes by and I drop it in, bless it and help me. And so the plate went by, and then they started the music, and we did the worship, and the preacher got up there and he preached, and they did all of that stuff. And then at the end of it, I was one of the people that helped lock up the building afterwards and leave. And at the end of it, the pastor walked up to me and he said, "Dave, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, I prayed and really sought the Lord on this, and it seems that I believe God wants me to give you what our collection was. So I got my $20 back, and there was probably, I don't even remember how much more. It was more than I really even felt like was possible. And I was able to pay my electricity and probably about even half of my rent with that. And as I left with that bag of money inside my coat to make sure that nobody was going to take it from me on the way home, it was such a blessing to just feel like, I could do that. So I was in that place where I didn't have anything. But in this scenario that you're imagining in your mind of the best possible scenario, don't go there, but instead say, I have so much more than I can afford to pay out. I have so much extra that I'm just going to give to that. And not only church, I'm going to find a children's benefit and give them, or I'm going to find some up here in Northern California, the victims of the fire that we had that burned a complete town to the ground. I'm going to give to them, and I'm going to go and do that. Thank you, appreciate that. And so I'm going to do that, and so that's what you want to do in order to get your ideal dream, your ideal vision going. Okay. And it's with each of these groups. With God, what am I going to do? I'm gonna make some. I might build a stage if our church needs a stage. Maybe I'm gonna have enough income and enough money extra just to build a stage. With my wife, I'm going to take her out a couple of times a week. We're going to go some places. I know some places that she says we haven't been, and it would be great to go there. So you're writing these things down as if you were able to do it right now, the best you could possibly imagine. So you write these things down underneath each category. For your wife, for the church, for your finances. I'm making $150,000 a year, every year, more than I made the year before, and I'm doing that by promoting my business on Facebook and Instagram. Okay, and you're doing all these things, and so you've got the ideal of what's going on, and you go each category, you do that, and then it's time to get real. You can't work backwards to where you are unless you are real with where you are. So now you go through each category a third time. This third time is confession time. Think of it that way. With God, I may not be spending a lot of time reading the Word. I may not be spending a lot of time, I pray maybe twice a week. Whatever the truth is, without exaggerating it and beating yourself up, write that down on your list. And in each category, with my wife, yeah, maybe I need to stop yelling at her so much. It's not her fault that my boss is such a slave driver. Okay, so you write down the truth in each of these categories. My kids, I need to spend more time. I need to make my son a priority. And my daughter is grown up now, but she needs to get a note every so often on Facebook saying, "You may not be thinking of me today, but I'm thinking of you." So you write these things down. Now, when you've gone through it the third time, you haven't even gotten to the goals yet. But at least now you have a really clear vision of what your ideal is, and now you can work backwards to where you are right now, and that's on the page 2. So you're not fooling yourself, but you write down where you are, you write down what your ideal is to work towards, and you know why, because in each category, the very first thing you wrote down was what those groups of people were saying about you, what your legacy was that you're leaving behind as you move forward in time towards that legacy. And so that's why I entitled this book, the subtitle of it is Beginning the Journey Toward Legacy. It's because we want to begin our journey toward legacy. And the legacy that we move toward is not a fantasy. It's not imaginary, but it's what we can be if we have the rest of this plan to work with. And we're going to get into that. All the details of this plan are to be released. And I am supposed to reveal every detail of this plan as we go along. It's going to take a while. That's why this is a series of your why, the plan on how to do it, and the plan on how to continue to do it. Now, you can do it for 2 weeks. That's what people do every year in January is they make the resolutions. The resolutions last 2 weeks, and then you put them on the shelf, and they collect dust, and pretty soon it's just a dirty paper, and you wad it up, and you throw it away. But that's not going to happen because this plan has 3 tiers. And the book talks about the 3 tiers. You can get that book at CoachDave.link. Okay, that's a real website name. CoachDave.link. There's all of my links to it. And the very first link is to this new ebook. It'll take you to my website, which is davebrown.coach. But you don't even need to remember that. Just remember CoachDave.link. And you can go there and see all the other things that I'm doing too. But that book is the very first. It's the top left square. Just click on it. Go get the ebook for free. And all you have to do is agree to give me a review of it. And that's all I want. I just want a review of it. I want to know if I'm way off there in left field, which on your screen looks like it's right field because things are backwards on TV. Over there in left field. And so that's what this is about. This is about finding the why, finding the process, and then finding out how to continue it and not drop it after a while, because we tend to do that. We're human beings. We tend to drop it after a while. So it's a 1, 2, 3 process. And that's the why tonight. That's how to find your why. That's how to find the direction of your legacy. And if you can define that, it took me a whole weekend to define it. So go through it piece by piece. And let me sum it up again. You start in a wooden box being buried 6 feet below the ground. You're able somehow in this vision that's the best possible moments for you that you've experienced, in this vision that you come up out of the ground and you walk amongst the people in different groups in your life, family groups, job groups, pastor, even God himself. You walk past these different groups and you go ahead and you make a list in a notebook of each of those groups, and then you go through and you answer those questions. Hit the replay on this and walk through this, because this is an important way that you can bust through to what is your why, what is your legacy, what is the thing that is going to wrap you up and keep you motivated to move forward in this thing and keep it rolling. And that's what we're after. And if we can do that, If I can do that, I know you can do that. If you can do that and it blesses your life, you're going to share it with other people. This is a process that took me a whole weekend to go through, and I had to sit quietly and not let anybody bother me and turn all my devices off and turn the computer off and take my watch off so it didn't even buzz anymore and all of those things. And you can do this and you can process it and you can make your list and go on through it. And you will bust through to your why. If you don't bust through to your why and you've gone through this process, I'm willing to talk. If you want to go to my site, CoachDave.link, my phone number is there. You want to call me and talk to me about it? I'll spend a little while talking to you about it. We'll see where the hang-up is, and we'll work our way through it. I mean, we should probably message first. There's also a messenger on there. You can click on the little message, Facebook Messenger balloon that's at the bottom right corner, and you can send me a message. Let's start there. If we need to talk, then we'll talk. But let's start there with the Facebook Messenger. If you need me to answer a couple of questions or you're having a hang-up somewhere in this process, go through this replay a couple of times. And if you are on the replay, share this out to your friends. Share this out to your family. There are people who need to know their why in order to progress in their life. This is ideal for them. And if you want to bless them, and if this blesses you, share this out to your family. Get the information out to those people who need it. And let me show you one more time. I'm not peddling this. This is for free. I'm not peddling the program. The program is for free. We're going to do some things with it that might have a cost to them, but you are not obligated to spend any money. You're not obligated to jump in. You're not obligated to do anything to even get specific questions answered. I'll do that for free. That's part of the blessing. That's part of what I got that I'm supposed to share with everybody else. But this is the book that I wrote. This is the book. You can go to CoachDave.link and you can get this book for free. It's the top left box that you click on. You'll see it. It says live. It says free book offer. Just go get this free ebook and read it and give me a review of it. Tell me what you think. But the important thing is, if this takes you and motivates you on to start this discovery process of what your why is, what your legacy is, that's the important thing. I don't care about any of the charges. I don't care about any of the fees that are going to be part of some Facebook group eventually. That's not the point. The point is you can get your questions answered. The point is, if you want to do this totally by yourself without being part of any paid program, we'll get through it together. We will get through it together, and we will make sure that this is a blessing in your life. All right, I'm going to go for now, but thank you for coming. Thank you for spending this time to listen and to begin this process. There's a series of these videos that we're going to go through all the way through the process, all the way through the 3 tiers that are mentioned in my ebook, all the way through that whole thing that will be not only finding, let me get one side of the screen, not only step 1, finding your why, step 2, finding the process to do it, and step 3, finding somebody to walk through it with you so you don't just leave it on the ground and walk away. Okay? So there's a 3-step process. It's the why, it's the process it's the gears, it's the machine, it's like a physical thing to help you with it day to day, week to week, month to month. And then the last thing is somebody to walk through it with you and encourage you and keep you accountable to yourself about what you're doing with it and keep you on track. So let's take the 1, 2, 3 process together. Let's go through the details of it. Stick with me on this series and we'll go through the details and we will get you transformed. I'm Coach Dave. Thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for viewing this, and we'll talk to you soon. Watch this series. Keep up with it. Follow me. You'll be notified, and we will get through it together. Thanks. Good night.